Welcome to the Speak with People podcast. My name is Jason Raitz. I'll be your host, and this podcast exists to help you improve your communication skills. Whether you communicate one-on-one, to a team, from a stage, or from behind a screen, we know that when we improve our communication skills as leaders, it exponentially changes everything. It improves our relationships, it improves our leadership skills, and it improves our business skills. So let's get ready to dive into this next episode. Well, today I'm so excited to be joined by a great guest. I've been looking forward to interviewing our guest for some time. He has just kind of a really fascinating story, and he's just an incredible communicator, and I can't wait to dive into it. But we are going to talk today specifically when it comes to our own uniqueness as communicators. How can we take the uniqueness, the message inside of us, and how can we communicate? How can we find the path for success and embrace it and move forward? And I'm just excited to dive into this conversation. And so before I give away too much of his story and background, I'm going to go ahead and welcome Dustin to the podcast. Dustin, thanks so much for being on the Speak with People podcast.
Thank you for having me. Dun, 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 dun.
I love it. I love it. Well, hey, before we kind of hop into the questions, could you kind of walk us down your story? We don't need the 37 chapter version, although it does. I think it would be great. But yeah, kind of give us who you are, what you do, all that kind of stuff.
Sure. Well, let me just pop out of screen and go back, and maybe you can tell, maybe a little bit of back, about me. Yes, Dustin Portillo. I reside here in Tampa Bay, Florida, and was a professional clown for Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey Circus.
Wow.
For 7 years. It was my childhood dream. At the age of 4, growing up in Kansas City, I told my parents I wanted to be a clown for the circus. And at the age of 19, I signed my contract with the greatest show on earth and toured for 7 years. And in that time frame, I did 3,500 shows with the greatest show on earth.
Wow.
And hundreds upon hundreds of television, newspaper, and radio interviews. And then that led to the next greatest thing, which I would consider the Cadillac of clowning, being the face of a $72 billion brand, Ronald McDonald. And I was Ronald for almost 4 years. Wow. And then that landed another gig with the largest McDonald's franchise in the United States. With Casper's company, I oversaw the community relations department, the donating, the sponsoring. And then that led to me what I'm doing now, which is motivational speaking, and I'm writing a book. So there's all sorts of stuff going on, and a lot of I am juggling currently.
Wow. That is, my goodness. That is.
You're never going to hear that again, are you?
I don't think so. Wow.
It has been very, very fascinating, and I am incredibly blessed to have had the jobs that I've had that have been the foundation for the next.
Yep.
It's been very interesting.
So was it the process getting into Ringling Brothers? Was that beyond difficult, or is it something that because it was a childhood dream, you kind of prepared for it forever?
So my brother had several things that he wanted to do. He wanted to be a herpetologist and work with reptiles. He wanted to be a paramedic. And at the age of 4, up until I joined the show, Ringling Clown. And actually I didn't. So I graduated 9 months early in December of 2004. And I immediately got a job up in New York, up in Queensbury, New York, working at Six Flags. And I was up there for 6 months, and I checked my email one day. This is a part of my book. And I checked my email one time out of 6 months. I didn't have the iPhone. We had the old flip phones, and the reception was horrible. So I went to the library one day, got onto my Dustin Ringling86 at yahoo.com email. As you can tell, I always wanted to be a Ringling clown. I checked my email, and that was on a Tuesday. And the Monday prior, the vice president of talent and production emailed me and said, and the subject line was opportunity. And he said, give me a call at your earliest convenience. So I, being naive, thought, oh my gosh, I've missed my opportunity. It's been a day later. So I called him up, and he offered me a contract for Ringling. I never auditioned, but I was persistent. And at the age of 14 years old, I was emailing him once a month, letting him know I want to be a clown for Ringling. I'm dedicated. This is what I'm doing locally. This is what I'm, and persistence paid off. And at the age of 18, I was offered a contract, and I joined whenever I was 19, which was 1 month later. And that was my entire journey with the greatest show on earth, and very incredible opportunity, and really opened my eyes to, we were going to 48 cities a year, and you're doing 1,000 shows every 2 years, and you're performing in front of 15 million people annually.
Wow.
And you're 19 years old and you are doing this, and it was really an out of body experience. Now looking back, I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I left. I'm glad that I experienced it, and it really was the trajectory to where I'm on now.
Wow, that is amazing. Talk about, putting you in a hot cooker to develop your communication skills. At such a young age, being in front of so many people, being able to communicate and act and, use every resource you have must have been incredible.
Sure. Well, I had a speech impediment growing up, and I
Huh.
had a stuttering problem. And I probably should have went through some sort of a speech therapy. It wasn't horrible. Whenever I would get excited or get nervous, it would really rear its head. And I started to notice that during the interviews I was doing on Ringling, I would either talk way too fast and try and get the messaging out, and I would stumble over the words, and it just came across as unprofessional, although I was a professional idiot. And so at about year 3 or 4, I noticed that I was harnessing my excitement not through trying to verbally get the messaging across like that,
Hmm.
but through facial expressions. And I was toned down, and I was really, whenever you speak slower, people tend to listen more intently. Whenever you're trying to hurry up, that's when things start to spill over, and you look like an idiot. And so I noticed that, year 3 or 4, that I started to harness the energy differently, and I began to really do my own speech therapy while I was on Ringling Brothers.
Huh.
And going back to year 5, 6, and 7, you can see this drastic difference. It's almost like Cinderella when she's cleaning the floors, and then whenever she's gone to the ball, you can really see this massive transformation. And I knew that I had to dive in and try and get this fixed, and that really was the catalyst. Was I already look like an idiot whenever I have everything on. I don't really want to portray that all the time whenever I'm supposed to be out there and we're the ambassadors of the circus. The clowns are the English speaking performers, and if the guy can't get his messaging across,
Yep.
then there's a bigger problem. And so
Yep.
that really started to build as I was with the circus, and then that led to the job as Ronald McDonald, where you're the face and you're the billboard of a $72 billion brand. And then how you portray yourself, how you look, how you act, how you talk, I'm representing 200,000 people. So there's a lot of weight on your shoulders, and everyone has this, right? And if their iPhone is in their pocket, you're saying something off the cuff, and someone's recording you, you are toast.
Mm.
And so whenever I was with Ringling Brothers, we were yearly, we would do 2 media trainings. They would fly in this big wig media personality from Miami, and it would be a half day training where they would go over talking points for the brand new show, and then how we would drive the bus. And so whenever you are out there doing television or newspaper or radio interviews, someone asks you one question and then you run with it, and you eat up their allotted time.
Mm.
That way you're getting your messaging out. But if you're stumbling over your words and you're so scatterbrained, there are moments where you just don't look professional. And so I knew I had to get ahead of that. And it was the best thing I ever did.
Wow. Wow. That is just incredible.
Yeah.
So going back to your last name for a second, any relation? I lived in Chicago for a bunch of years. So any relation to the restaurant
No
Portillo's?
hot dogs. No hot dogs. So really, 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 really quick. Grandfather died in 2001. We didn't know anything about him. Brothers, sisters, mom, and dad. He never spoke on anybody. Fast forward 7 years later, my uncle wanted to dig up and see, found out that my grandfather had stolen someone's identity, decades and decades and decades ago, went to the grave with it. And so yes, my last name is Portillo, but truly it's not. We don't really know
Huh.
anything about our heritage. We know that we come from the Mediterranean, and it was like 90% Italian, 10% Spain. So, um, very interesting. So
Wow.
I guess you could say I'm with the Witness Protection Program, although I just outed myself. So I'll probably be having the FBI call me here shortly.
Wow. That's incredible. What a
Yeah,
journey. What a story.
yeah, yeah.
I
I
love
wish
that.
I was. I wish I was a part of the Portillo clan. I'd send you, Jason, a thing of hot dogs, but sorry, man. Sorry about that. Not going to happen.
I love it. I love it. Well, you've had to learn it as a communicator. Obviously we all have our own uniqueness. We're all created, in a unique way. How
Right.
did you, or how do you think other communicators can kind of find their voice among their own uniqueness? How can leaders utilize that uniqueness, the past experiences like you have, all these things that you've been able to do to achieve success, find that uniqueness and communicate and move forward?
It's so difficult to drown out all of that noise, and
Mm,
so many people conform to their environment like a chameleon.
mm,
And I've had my moments where that was definitely something that I did, but you learn quickly that that's not how you operate, and that's not my personal mo anymore. I'm going to stand out amongst everyone else, and it is so difficult for people to truly be their unique self,
mm.
especially leaders out there. They think that whenever they come to the office environment or wherever their office is, that they have to put on some sort of a mask.
Yeah.
And I just don't buy into that.
Yeah.
My background, my uniqueness, Ringling Clown, Ronald McDonald, Casper's Company, to what I'm doing now, if I didn't truly embrace my uniqueness, I would blend in with everybody else, and I
Mm.
wouldn't be a standout. So it is absolutely imperative for you to draw on your past. Now, here's a really big difference. Are you revering your past, or are you respecting it? Let me give you a little analogy. So many people in the McDonald's world revere McDonald's from the past.
Mm.
They're living in the past. McDonald's back in 1975 was a great blah blah blah.
Yeah. Yep.
Then respect it.
Yeah.
Respect where you came from and be relevant to today's audiences. That to me is the most crucial thing. You have got to be relevant with your audience. And McDonald's and even Ringling Brothers, they closed in 2017, and they just opened up about a month and a half ago, and they've reinvented themselves.
Mm.
They're 148 years old. And so you think, oh, someone's, this entity is 148 years old. How are they going to be relevant and be unique? And so it took them 6 years after closing to figure out how are they going to stand amongst the noise out there and be way different. Ringling from 1923 to 2023 is 350,000% different.
Right.
It can't stay the same. And so people always have to be relevant and be unique and embrace their uniqueness. One of the chapters of my book is own your originality.
Mm.
And you have to be the unicorn. You have to be a unicorn. And typically unicorn is a business that is valued at $1 billion. And I found that at Casper's, our company wasn't a billion because we were a franchise. It was worth several $100 million, but it was a unicorn. We were so unique, and therefore you had a bunch of unique people inside of Casper's. And I truly believe that if you're not drawing on your uniqueness and your past and being relevant, you're going to get drowned out and you're going to lose relevancy just like that.
Wow. 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 You kind of started walking down the road, kind of walk us through. You have, it's 5 words. I always mess it up if it's an acrostic or an acronym, but you kind of walk through these 5 words that kind of
Yeah,
are a roadmap. Kind of give us a little insight about that.
sure. So my book is called It's Okay to Be an Idiot.
Mm.
And idiot is an acronym. But before I get to that, people call the clown the fool or the idiot. So
Mm.
there's really two meanings to this particular book. I used to be a clown, so therefore idiot. I had no problem. Even if you go to my LinkedIn profile, up at the top, the headline says motivational speaker, author, professional idiot. That makes me stand out.
Mm.
I have no problem being called a professional idiot. I mean, God knows I've lived it all my entire life. But idiot is also an acronym. Imagine your potential, dream big, ignite your inner fire, own your originality, and give thanks.
Mm.
And if you follow those 5 core concepts, I firmly believe, I know that if you're the maintenance man at a hospital, if you're cleaning the toilets and urinals at a fast food restaurant, or you're a motivational speaker like Jason, or you're the CEO of a Fortune 100 company, if you follow those 5 principles, I guarantee you will find success. But you have to let it reverberate with inside of you.
Mm.
Think of it as having some sort of a varnish on, and it's just pinging off of you. You have to let it soak in.
Mm.
And so many people read these motivational books and they're all great. But if you don't let it soak in, why even read it?
Yeah.
And so my book, the first several chapters is the parallel worlds of entertainment and business. You, Jason, are wearing a shirt. That is your company shirt. That you are wearing a costume.
Mm.
This is my costume today. Typically, if I was working for a franchise, I'd be wearing a suit. That is your costume. How you represent yourself, that is the actor's monologue. And how you dress is extremely important because people
Mm.
stereotype. Whether they say they don't, they do. People
Yep.
stereotype within the first 20 seconds of meeting somebody. And you can tell if that person's self-esteem is through the roof or not. And so I really found that working at Casper's, I was representing 4,000 plus employees. And so I had to maintain, get my hair cut every 2 weeks, clean shaven. How I dressed was not representing Dustin Portillo, but
Yep.
it was representing a 64-year-old franchise
Yep.
and 4,200 people.
Wow.
So it really makes you open your eyes to what's out there. So idiot, twofold, clown, and if you can really truly embody the idiot, I don't care what background, who you love,
Mm.
what your skin color is, you can be successful at whatever you do in life.
I love that. I love that. Let's walk through each one just for a second. So,
Sure.
the imagine. I mean, especially as adults, we get older. It kind of gets tougher and tougher for us to our imagination just kind of dries up. How can we
Sure.
keep it fresh? How can we keep imagining new ideas and dreams and all that kind of stuff?
I think it is important for every day to spend X amount of time. I'm not going to say 10, 15, 20 minutes to daydream.
Mm.
I am a firm believer of manifesting and envisioning. And as a kid, I talk about this in my book, I manifested and envisioned myself being a clown for Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus. I lived and breathed it 24/7. I came home from school, threw on my plaid green pajamas, and I would envision that I was a clown for the circus. And I think if you can see the potential isn't necessarily what's in front of you as of this moment,
Yep.
but what is further down the line. And if you can see yourself doing something and envisioning it, you can bring it to life. But your heart has to truly be in it. And if your heart is not truly in it, you're never going to succeed. And I firmly believe that. After I left Casper's company in September of last year, I had a couple of jobs, and they were jobs. They were not careers.
Mm.
One of them I knew within the first week that it was a really bad decision. Toxic culture, X, Y, and Z.
Yep.
And I could not truly envision myself being there forever. Within the first week, I knew, yeah, this is not a good situation. And so, if you can envision that, and if you can bring it to fruition, I firmly believe that knowing your potential, what's going to be down there in 6 months, a year
Yep.
from now, is going to help you out. And of course, dreaming. I don't understand why, as adults, we lose the power of dreaming.
Yep.
We all of a sudden we get sucked up into our own world, and I get it, finances and mortgage, and trying to find that mission in life or that job. Um, the day to day can get very mundane, but we need to still keep alive that dreaming aspect. And it's so crazy that only 4% of the world's population will ever live out their childhood dream. Only 4%.
Wow.
So, you think, what is going on with the other 96%? What are they doing? Are they truly living out their God-given purpose, or are they just like zombies, just walking around the earth collecting a paycheck?
Yep.
I just don't buy into that.
Yep.
And so, me going on this motivational journey is I truly believe the universe saying this is what you need to do. You don't need to be doing a normal 9 to 5 job. You need to be spreading idiocy around, and you need to be letting people know that you've got one life, Jason. I've got one life.
Yep.
Unless you believe in a reincarnation, which I don't know. I'm not. I know a lot. All right, I know a lot about nothing. but what I do grasp is we got one life.
Yeah.
And if you're not living it to the fullest and
Yep.
imagining and dreaming and igniting your passion and purpose in life, think of the other I for idiot is ignite.
Yeah.
You are up in the mountains of the Rocky Mountains, and you're in this cabin, and there's a fireplace, and there's logs, and there's a match in front of you, and if you don't strike that match, you're going to freeze to death. And that fire is not going to light itself. So everyone, I don't care who you are, I don't care if you have a disability, everybody has a burning desire inside of them, some
Yep.
whatever it is. And so if you don't strike that match and ignite that fire, it's never going to burn.
Yep.
And so many people lose hope. They feel hopeless. They feel like they have no life. They feel like they have no soul, because they have not truly struck the match of what is motivating them deep down inside. So that's the I, that's the other I. O is own your originality. And own your originality and give thanks are my two favorite. Again, don't put a mask on. Everyone else is already wearing one.
Yep.
I gave a lecture about a month and a half ago to the marketing students over at the University of South Florida. And I was so surprised. I asked anyone who here comes to the campus and really doesn't portray themselves as who they are. And it took a while for the kids to own up to it. But this one kid raised his hand, and someone who I was flabbergasted even had raised their hand. He looked like your typical popular kid, very well put together. And so he felt that it was necessary to come to school and not show his true, authentic self. He was hiding behind a mask, and I felt so bad for him that he was portraying something that truly was not him.
Yep.
And whenever you can own it and own who you are and be unapologetically
Yep.
in your realm and walking into a room and people going, oh my gosh, look at the power. I'm not saying power as in I have power over you, but
Yep.
everyone should have that glowing aura about them that makes them unique and stand out and be that, unicorn. And then giving thanks. Why would the universe give you more if you're not happy with what you have now and you're not thankful for that?
Wow.
Why would the universe give you more if you're not thankful for what you have now? And so many And Jason, I am guilty of it. I'm guilty of everything I've said. I'm guilty of just the opposite as well. That's called being a human being.
Right.
And I'm not going to sit here and say that I live and breathe this 24/7. I have faults too.
Yep.
Weirdly enough, just because I am an idiot doesn't mean that I am the epitome of what I'm saying. But I know when I am spiraling or when I'm losing sight or I'm triggered to go back to what makes me me.
Yeah.
And I firmly believe that if you are not thankful for what you currently have, you're not going to get anything else. We say, "Oh, my job sucks. My wife is always nagging at me." Well, you're saying all of these things, but what are you really grateful for?
Mm.
And the universe is going to help you out. That's called karma.
Wow.
And it is a life, it is a boomerang of life. You throw it out there and it's bound to come back and knock you upside the head.
Yep.
So being thankful for what you have, because there's people out there who currently don't have much. And I'm so fortunate that this holiday season I am donating 24 hours of my time to Metropolitan Ministries, which is a local non profit here,
Yep.
and they feed families this year, 30,000 families. And so I'm giving turkeys or toys or whatever it is, and I sit there and I'm so grateful for what I've got. And but I'm also passing along my hope for those particular families
Mm.
that one day they're going to get out of the slump they're in, that they're going to be back at the tent volunteering.
Yeah.
So always bless people, give them the benefit of the doubt and just be thankful for what you have. But if you follow those 5 key concepts, I know for a fact it will transform your life like it has mine.
Wow. Boy, that is so powerful. That's so powerful. Uh, so
Hallelujah.
so rich. I mean, I just took so many notes. So many things that can kind of help steer us and guide us. As we kind of round the corner of our conversation, just curious from a standpoint. So I grew up as a kid who I was always a performer, loved to juggle, be in front of people,
Oh,
make
very
them
cool.
laugh. Yeah, always,
Yeah, yeah.
always loved that side of it. As a communicator now, I've always, steered on I'm a storyteller. So my stories
Hmm,
have funny moments, lots of laughter, all that kind of stuff. But
sure.
one of my own personal irritations is when people want me to perform when I'm not in that mode of like, okay, I just, I'm on the stage. I'm speaking now. This is what I do it. But then you get to someone's house and there's a party and they're like, oh, hey, perform. Like, how have
Uh-huh.
you,
Sure. Hmm.
had to like balance that? Cause I mean, you're like, that's like a whole other world, to where that's your,
Yeah.
I'm just so curious from your perspective.
Okay, so 2 perspectives. Being a clown for the circus, you're doing typical 13 to 15 shows a week. Each show is 3 hours and 15 minutes, plus all the
Wow.
television, newspaper, and radio interviews. So you're a lot of hours spent. The last thing you wanted to do was to perform after you were off the circus floor.
Mm,
And people can't, grasp that. Well, you're a clown. You should always be a clown. That's a profession. And yes, I am a humorous person, and my God given talent is my number one God given talent is humor. But I know when to shut it on or when to turn it on and shut it off. And but the outside world has a very difficult time. Well, you used to be a clown. You should always be funny. And but I
yep.
but I know moments of
Yep.
stillness. And after whenever I portrayed Ronald McDonald, um, so much energy was spent. And the last thing I wanted to do was to go out to a restaurant. I wanted to go home and just relax.
Yep.
Because whenever you are the face of that huge brand,
Yep.
you are always on.
Yep.
Ronald is never not on. Think of like going to Disney World and you see Mickey Mouse just standing there.
Yep.
I'm telling you, you will never see any of the characters just standing there. They're always doing some sort of a movement, because if they are just standing there, the character looks dead.
Yeah.
So those people are always having some sort of a movement. It's also critical to have moments of seriousness. One of the reasons I got the Ronald McDonald contract, I auditioned at a local inner city school here
Hmm.
in full clown makeup. I was the only person who showed up to the audition looking like a clown.
Huh.
And after I auditioned, the panel of judges interviewed me because I had to go to work. And I did a 15-20 minute interview in full clown makeup, and it was a serious interview. They
Wow.
were asking credentials, and one of the franchise owners months later said, I picked you for this role because I was so flabbergasted that you were in full clown makeup and yet you were holding a professional adult conversation.
Mm.
And he goes, that blew my mind, because typically people, you slap that on and you're on. I mean,
Yep.
and I could have been cracking jokes, but I know when to turn it on and turn it off. And I think
Yep.
a lot of people don't know that. So yeah, that is a very interesting question. Being serious and
Yep.
the silly side of it. It's the silly side of business.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, hey, before I let you go, I want to hit some rapid fire questions. Let our
Ooh,
audience kind of
okay,
get to know you, and this kind of
okay,
helps us kind of keep developing as leaders. But we talk about
sure.
speaking a lot on this podcast. Do you have a favorite speaker? Is there just someone that you just love to listen to all day long?
Do you know who Earl Nightingale is?
I do not. I need to. It sounds like.
Oh my gosh. So Earl Nightingale, he's passed away. It's probably been 20, 30, actually 30 something years ago. He had a very popular radio show on for decades called The Strangest Secret. And he was
Oh,
actually the founder of the self-help. Nightingale Conad
huh.
was the publishing company, and so I have 20 hours of his radio show, and they are in little snippets. They weren't like full-fledged 30-minute, 45 minutes. They
Yep.
were 5 minute anecdotes that are still relevant today. And
Huh.
one of my favorite quotes is two of them. We become what we think about, which has been
Mm,
uttered in every
yep.
philosopher has uttered those words. And coming from the McDonald's world for the past 9 years, minimum wage isn't meant to be a lifestyle. It's
Oof.
meant to be a stepping stone to something great. And I think that we can all take a piece of that from that. What you are currently doing now is a stepping stone to something
Yep.
greater than you. And that totally embodies what our mindset should be where we currently are at this moment in time.
That's so good. Oh, that's so good. Do you have a favorite podcast that you love, either leadership development or guilty pleasure that just kind of fills you up?
So Louise Hayes, which is Hay House Publishing, she's, again, this is someone else who has passed away, has, I wouldn't necessarily call it a podcast, but she has YouTube videos out there that are just inspirational. It's like the law of attraction and that sort of stuff. And she, most of her stuff is based in trauma. She had
Mm,
a very traumatic childhood growing up, and so a lot of it is based in trauma. But a lot of it is the mindset work,
yep.
and anything mindset related. Um, we could all use it every single day. Little
Yep.
small tune-ups,
Yep.
and so
Oh, that's good.
those two people I admire a lot.
That's so good. Is there a book you think every leader, boy, this is just a kind of a foundational book that every leader should
Oh,
read?
there's a really great book that I just discovered within the past maybe 2 months called "It's Okay to Be an Idiot,"
Mm.
and it's written by some guy named Dustin Portillo, who used to be a clown for the circus, and then. But another really great book, and it just so happens that I had this here, and actually this was not a stage at all. My old boss at Casper's company wrote a book called "Generating Happiness."
Huh.
And it was his 47 years that he spent at Casper's company and the life lessons that he learned under the Golden Arches. It's really a phenomenal book. A lot of small anecdotes, and I have known him now for almost 10 years, and he lives and breathes this mantra of generating happiness. It's an incredible book. I think it parallels a lot of people's life and work. It's really a terrific book.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, Dustin, thank you so much. This was so rich. Love hearing your story. Thank you for weaving it in, giving us some practical tips. Is there somewhere we can send our listeners online to go find out more about you or your upcoming book?
If you follow me on LinkedIn, Dustin Portillo, I post stuff all the time. I'm very active on there. But yes, follow me, comment. I'll follow you, and let's just have a conversation and keep this motivational train moving.
I love that. I love it. Well, Dustin, thanks again for being on the podcast. What a delight. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Jason, very much.
Well, thank you for joining us on another episode of the Speak with People podcast. We hope that you were encouraged. We hope that you were inspired and challenged to improve your communication skills. I want to thank you again for being a part of the Speak with People podcast community. Make sure you don't miss out on being a part of the Speak with People Facebook community group. Just head to Facebook, type in Speak with People, scroll down and join our community, because every single day we're encouraging each other, we're helping each other to improve our communication skills. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next episode.